Thank you for staying with us. And now we'll be looking at something that a lot of people have been waiting and looking forward to. In a week's time, both Bayelsa and Kogi State will be having elections for the #1 office, the office of the governor and the deputy. So what is the situation? What's the implication of all of this? Incidentally, we have just Bayelsa representatives that were able to make it. The Kogi guys, I don't know whether it's flight issues, they could not make it for whatever reasons.
Or maybe too much campaign issues.
Well, they are all campaigning, last-minute campaigns. But we have the Bayelsa state representatives here for the PDP and the APC. The eyes of the entire country are looking towards this too, the central part of the country and the south-south part of the country. What would be the outcome of it? A week ago, the Independent National Electoral Commission identified flashpoints in Bayelsa and Kogi State ahead of the elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu said that an internal risk assessment had been conducted in the two states, and he termed politically volatile, and concerns are mounting over mobilization of thugs to disrupt the elections in the states. He called the security agencies, particularly the police, to provide robust security because if there are any cases of violence or disruption in the elections, Nigerians will hold both INEC and the police accountable.
But of course.
Professor Yakubu said INEC is committed to the integrity of the process, and over the last 7 months, the electoral umpire has been working assiduously to ensure that credible elections are conducted. But how are the political parties preparing for these elections? To help us understand the situation in Bayelsa and how they are preparing, we have joining us here in our Lagos studio is a member of the Media and Publicity Committee of the All Progressives Congress, Don Evarada. I understand he's now a doctor, or is he chief? Welcome. Both. Chief Doctor Don Evarada.
Yeah, I think you have a way of waiting me with beautiful economy, so I love that. It's
Are you serious?
But above all, to be on the safer side, it's nice being here, and I think it's been quite a while. What a moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Joining us via Skype, I understand he missed his flight, is Daniel Alabra, who is also a member of the Media and Publicity Committee of the People's Democratic Party in Bayelsa State. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Alabra.
Thank you, Neota, and I also greet my friend there at Canada.
Okay, welcome. So let's start with that question, what the INEC chairman said about the situation, mobilization of youth, of thugs to disrupt the elections in the state. What's the situation? We do also know that all the parties contending in this election signed a peace accord. So just tell us in a few words how you're preparing for the elections. Let me start with you, who's here.
Yeah, I think importantly, both parties of the divide understand the significance of this election come November 16. For truth, I must tell Nigerians, and indeed Bayelsa specifically, that the stakes are very high. It's therefore incumbent on all of us as a people to ensure that we act within the ambit of good conscience, within law and order, and to ensure that we express our democratic rights without rancor, without acrimony. Let's do it in a fair way so that we don't paint Bayelsa State before the eyes of the world in a bad light. The question, therefore, is to what extent are we pursuing these objectives? And number one, I think both sides have resolved that they will act in good faith. Of course, I do have my reservations when politicians say they are going to act in good faith. Oftentimes,
sorry, you're not the politician.
I'm being careful not to to be too deep into that.
Okay.
But I'm saying when politicians do make statements of that nature, we are going to ensure that there is peace and tranquility. When the heat becomes very high, sometimes they compromise those positions and the situation changes. But I'm believing very strongly that as it stands today, it's not too bad, but there are ripples of concerns in different parts of the state. It is therefore the responsibility of first, we as a people, Bayelsans, before we give the burden to security men and, of course, the umpire, INEC. So let's act in good faith. Let's act right and ensure that we'll protect our common heritage.
Let's hear from Dan.
All right.
Dan?
Yes, I'm here with you.
Yeah, so with the situation of INEC chairman's statement about mobilization of thugs and all of that, how's your party preparing and what's the situation? You heard what Don said about working in good faith and ensuring that the people of Bayelsa take responsibility to ensure there's peace and decorum before you look at the security and INEC to do their bit.
Okay, thank you once again. As for PDP, the PDP is ready, the PDP is prepared. The PDP is working towards having peaceful election. The PDP is hoping that the election will truly be peaceful, though there are talks of federal might, being deployed to influence the conduct of the election. We hope that does not happen. But on our part, we are looking forward to peaceful voting where the votes will count and the will of the people will be freely expressed. That is our expectation. And we believe that this election, if it's allowed to go the way it should go, at the end of the day, Bayelsans, will be happy about it. That is what we expect. And we believe that if all parties, particularly the politicians, if we all conduct ourselves very well, I believe that at the end of the day, our state will be better for it.
Why is it that Bayelsa is always a flashpoint? Every time there are elections in Bayelsa, people are always on edge. Why?
I don't know what you want me to repeat. Respond.
Dan, before you respond, just hold your thoughts. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, you respond to that question. Thank you for staying with us. That question that was put to you, Daniel, before we bring it to Don, Daniel is a member of the Media and Publicity Committee of the People's Democratic Party in Bayelsa State. Dan, the question was, why is it that every time there's an election or Bayelsa is considered a flashpoint? That was a question Alera asked.
Well, I had all the answers, but I can only guess, and I think it's a general problem. It's not peculiar to Bayelsa. It's something that has to do with the nature of politics in Nigeria. In Nigeria, the stakes are always very high. This winner-takes-all mentality always comes to play whenever we have a contest. That is an election like the one we are talking about. So it is something that I do not think is peculiar to Bayelsa, though it is something that keeps recurring. And I believe that with political education and people getting to understand that politics or election is not a do or die affair, I think that phenomenon will begin to phase out of our politics. But I think that it is something that is it's a national malaise. It is not peculiar to Bayelsa. It is something that we find almost everywhere. I think it has to do with the nature of our politics, and it has to do with the way our people see politics. By the time we begin to see politics as a contest, and somebody will win and somebody will lose, I think people will begin to understand that it is not a winner takes all. That is the mentality that we need to.
Is it about the way we see politics or the way we see the task of a political office? Is it about service? If we know that it's about service, not about accumulation of wealth, do you think people will be fighting or killing each other for it?
Well, Neta, you are right, partly right, and partly not also correct. I want to say that I think it's because of the way we see politics, and it's because of the kind of system we have in our country. A lot of people see politics not only as an avenue to serve, but as an avenue to enrich themselves. So this is one of the reasons why you see a lot of persons, they want to do everything to get into political office. But if we begin to see politics, like you said, as service, then that phenomenon it will reduce. People will not begin to see it as an end in itself. They will see it as a means to an end. So I think that it is here and it's also there. we must change our attitude towards politics. If we do not change our attitude towards politics, people will begin to see the contestation for office as something that you must get at all costs. That is something that we must begin to downplay in our politics. It's a national malaise. It's not really peculiar to Bayelsa, like I said earlier.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And Don. There's Don in Lagos and Dan.
Yeah, I think to a reasonable extent, my friend made very humble points, but I may look at it from perhaps a different perspective. Bayelsa State is the mother of the entire Ijaw nation, and therefore, every political activity that is taking place in Bayelsa State must attract quite an unusual attention. Unusual because the stakes are pretty high, and number two, it also tells the story of who we are as a people. The Jaws are known for being under a struggle, a concept of struggle, always wanting to re-emancipate themselves, reinvent an idea about creating a future that can provide the fundamentals and necessaries of life. It is also true that in the course of these struggles, a whole lot of stories may have been told, either rightly or wrongly, but quite a lot of them are right, that the people are quite intolerant when it comes to a moment when they think their rights are infringed upon. And therefore, we must look at the systems that are operative in the country today, especially when it comes to elections. How does the ordinary German feel in Bayelsa State when elections are going to hold? Is he going to talk about his personal rights? How does he see the elections? Is it an opportunity to provide the necessaries of life so that the hope that they've yearned for over the years becomes a reality? Now, when all of these things are put together, then it brings to fore the other questions of whether the interplay of the umpires, the security, etc., they are also going to adhere to good conscience. In all, Bayelsa State will always remain a centerpiece when it comes to elections in this country. Reason being that it is also true not long ago, we discussed issues about the amnesty, etc., and how it affected the national economy, and of course, our psyche as a people. Now we have said the amnesty has come, and it has got to a point that Nigerians are thinking this is reasonable, it's okay. But people still have fears, however, that in spite of that, there could be some pockets of resistance in most communities and rural areas. There are still those allegations from security assessment points that there could be some communities that are still having possession of firearms, etc. And politicians are quite desperate people. I say that every time. I don't care whose ox is God. But we must, as a people, realize that these elections are not just about we as a people. It's about the challenges we have as a people. They're about issues. And so when we overgive the hype on issues of maybe celebrating Bayelsa State, the prism of the eye of the world is on Bayelsa State. We are thinking it differently. We are talking about what are the core fundamental issues that are going to determine the outcomes of the election come 16th of November 2019.
Don, you speak as if the Ijaw people are not the only people in Bayelsa. The rights of the Ijaw man. You know, who are the others who are struggling and disputing these rights with you in Bayelsa?
We are Ijaw people.
We assume that Bayelsa is a homogeneous state.
True.
It's made up of all Ijaw people.
Yes, that's why I said Ijaw struggle. We are noted for a struggle. It's not about a particular
So you
clique.
Must continue to struggle even where there's nothing to struggle for.
Just like we talk about the Northern Ireland within the UK, the realm of the UK. Everything that happens there brings special concerns because they have history of a struggle. When you talk about Sinn Féin, etc. And so that's why we are, as people, as the Jaws. Every time we pursue an agenda, we believe that the world will be concerned about it. And I think it's important, bearing in mind that we're also the hub, the economic hub of this country. Why won't elections in Bayelsa State attract all the bees from all fronts of the divide?
Yes, but you all have carried this thing so far that we understand, for instance, that people with disabilities are scared, are saying that they're going to be too scared to come out to vote and exercise their right because of the tension in the air.
No, I don't believe there is an unusual tension in the air. Reason being that as it stands today, we've not recorded any incident of violence as it stands. And
Not
I think
yet.
I challenge security assessors all over to say what's happening on ground. So essentially, I think
The IG must have seen something for him
that
to have
is
said what he said.
Speculation. Now I'm speaking from the prism of a security expert too. And now I'm saying, yes, whatever the IG said could be true. However, we are working as seriously as the people collectively to ensure that everyone adheres to the principles of good conscience. We can be better if we do the right things, and I think we can do it. And this is the time to do it too.
Okay, let's leave this matter of, at least all the parties have signed the peace accord, so we want to believe that there will be a peaceful election. As you said, the people of Bayelsa should take responsibility, and before they look to the police and INEC to do their own bit, take responsibility and ensure that there is peace in your environment, people of Bayelsa. But let's look at the issues that are at stake here. As you said, you mentioned issues that are at stake. Dan, I hope you're Dan, I hope you're there as well. Don is here, Dan is there. So let's begin with the question of education, for instance. Global Standard says 26 or thereabout % of the budget of a state should go towards education. What's the plan for education in the future of Bayelsa? Let me start with you, Dan.
Okay, thank you once again, Nyota. When you talk about education and educational policies, I'm happy to say that Bayelsa ranks among the best states today with policies that you can give thumbs up. And let me recall that when the current government took off in 2012, Bayelsa on the national examination rating, we're about 30th position, on the scale, on the national rating. But the current governor, or the outgoing governor, identified this as a challenge, and he declared a state of emergency on the education sector. 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the line, the story of Bayelsa, concerning education is no longer the same. Today, we are between the 1st and 7th position. In fact, we've always come between the 3rd, 5th, and 7th. We've not gone below that or beyond that. It is because of the policies that were put in place by this government. And going forward, the government of Senator Odoyediri, when he wins on November 16, will consolidate on what the current government has done. Today, we have in place policies in the education sector that has continued to make us produce students that do well. And this was not a happenstance, or this is not a happenstance. It's a deliberate, conscious, articulated effort for our state to do well in education. Now, I'm going to give you some specifics. When the government of Henry Serake Dixon took office in 2012, the government introduced boarding schools, because before that time, there was no boarding school system in the state. And as we speak, 13 model boarding schools are in place across the 8 local governments of the state. And there's a flagship school, we call it the flagship school, that's the Ijaw National Academy in Kayama, where you have students from all the Ijaw-speaking states in Nigeria, today in that institution, over 1,500 of them, going to 2,000 of the students in that institution, all of them on scholarship, just like in all the other model schools, where they have free feeding, free accommodation, free uniforms, and everything. So the students in all of these model schools are properly taken care of. There's also the Educational Trust Fund, where the government contributes 5% of its IGRA monthly or yearly, as the case may be. Then civil servants also contribute, part of their own salaries for them to be able to take care of the Educational Trust Fund. So the future of education is guaranteed, because the Education Trust Fund today is a product of legislation. It is meant to guarantee that these policies that have been put in place will be sustained over time. So going forward, what we can only do is to fine-tune some of these policies and see how they can get better. But already, Bayelsa is on the high. And we only hope and believe better.
All right, thank you. Don?
Yeah, when we talk about education, Bayelsa State really needs to be reprofiled because 8 years down the drain, I was a spokesperson for the incumbent governor for quite some years. We did campaigns, and one of them, like my friend there said, was the declaration of a state of emergency in the educational sector. The question is, 8 years down the drain, from what we made in 2012 to date, what's the situation? And I'll just say, because it's not time for politics, let's hit the facts. These are the issues. From down Yenegua in Swale to Igbogni to the extreme side, heading out of town, what is the situation of government schools, public schools? Our children and wards are still sitting on the bare floor. I challenge whoever that is listening to this program. Go school after school, except the Bishop Dimere Grammar School, and then the St. Jude's Girls Secondary School. Those are old schools that have been renovated. Beautiful, accept that. Every other school within the Yenegua metropolis, this is the state capital, it's just in a shameful situation. Our children, even as we speak, they sit on blocks, and the roofs are largely open. The ones that will manage to have roofs, anytime the weather frowns, the kids are back home. When the sun becomes scorchy, the teachers ask them to go home because the environment is not safe for learning. You don't see the desk, there are no staff rooms, the walls are cracky or broken. Have we really declared a state of emergency in terms of reprofiling the educational prospect of the state? It is sad that as modern people, we will come out openly and tell the world that this is what we are doing. The reality on ground tells a different story. Let's take, for instance, the Niger Delta University, the parent university established by late Chief DSP Alames here, to raise up the hopes of Bayelsa State in terms of education. What is happening today? We have over 500% increase of tuition fees. A people who are barely struggling to have hope in life. And many of our children are wards today, who are students of Niger Delta University. The school is resuming, I think, resumed yesterday. Majority of the kids can't go back to the school. They can't return because the fees are something else. They are beyond human, over 500%. And that's the situation. And we're asked again, is the Niger Delta University funded? As we speak now, there is no research, anything, zero. Research is zero. A paltry sum of about 300 million is what is given to the university for subvention. Nothing more. And so they can't even pay the staffs. The Niger Delta University is just like a land where the owners abandoned for too many years. Have we truly declared a state of emergency in the educational sector? Let me mention one that is very funny. The Isaac Jasper Borough College of Education, 8 years down the drain, under the declaration of a state of emergency in the educational sector, no accreditation. Even the children awards who are there, our children, and awards who are there. Some may have also graduated, but their certificates are not even recognized anywhere. This is the peak of insensitivity. Have we declared a state of emergency in the educational sector? Let's go to the primary level where someone is, of course, the federal responsibility. It's both ways. Teachers of primary education, primary level in the state, even as we speak, our schools are under lock and key. Why? Nobody cares. To be a teacher in Bayelsa State is a course. For 8 years, with due respect, 8 years down the drain, have we declared a state of emergency in the educational sector? Secondary schools, he talked about our rating. We are 38 in terms of performance. Now we're between 5th and 10th or 7th. Good. What are the pointers to show that we've done anything reasonable?
But is that bad? If you
No,
were 30 and now you're between 5 and 10, that's improvement.
It's good. That's what I'm saying. Young Bayelsans, Jaws are brilliant, smart people in the environment.
So if there is an improvement in that rating,
I
that means
agree.
they did something
but we're
right.
talking about first, when you declare self-emergency in education, not just about pronouncement of a policy, implementation. Year after year, budgetary provisions are made, releases are made, nothing on ground to show. We are at the schools. Where are the schools? And I'm just mentioning Yenegua, the state capital. Where are the schools?
Done. The question is, he talked about consolidation of what has been done. So if the ratings have moved from 30 to between 5 and 7, what are you going to do?
And we're asking very simple. David Lyon, the governorship candidate of the APC, has come to tell the world that the essence of education is not about just policy pronouncement. there are standard, universal standards. Like you said too, 20 to 23% is what the United Nations wants in advancing universal basic education. And this governor has told by essence, for the first time a state in this country will uphold the concept of 20% budgetary provision for education. How does he want to go about it? He's talking about standardizing the provision of facilities, not just stepping up the infrastructural decay that we have. He's also talking about providing laboratories for science and technology. He's talking about ICT laboratories. He's talking about basic low-level research development manpower so that the teacher to be able to understand that these kids we are preparing are moving into a new realm, tertiary education. And so you prepare them. Therefore, we are going to consolidate the concept of advancement of education through tampering with infrastructure and making a reasonable policy drive and do implementation that will have the heart of the people at the soul of the government.
Okay, we'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll look at health. Share us again. We're talking the elections in Bayelsa, and so far we've heard from the two sides, or the two main sides. Oh yeah, we did invite the governorship candidate of Accord Party. Accord Party was supposed to be here also. I think he couldn't make the flight. Well, and all of that. So, but we still have APC and PDP, and they're telling us all sorts of things as regards education. So Professor Imonoka Enekena says, politics is a call to serve. Thus, politicians must be extremely careful not to fuel embers of disunity. Bayelsans deserve more. No blood should be spilled. Either way, all hands must be on deck to forestall any act of violence, thuggery, and ballot snatching. Thank you very much, Prof. As the former president said, not one single citizen's blood is worth any political office.
Yeah.
That's credited to President Jonathan. Okay, let's look at the issue of environment. Bayelsa, Dan, I hope you're there.
Yes,
All right, thank you. This time we'll start from Don here, and then we'll come to you. So, Don, the question of environment, Bayelsa is sitting on water. The environment around Bayelsa is somewhat degraded. Not just somewhat, it's degraded, especially owing to oil exploration and oil and gas activities around there, and the activities of the citizens there as well. So what would be the plan to salvage the environment in Bayelsa?
Yeah, I think Bayelsans are, for the first time, going to be very lucky to have a governorship candidate that means well, because he has come with a blueprint that is well intended to address most of our challenges, and environment stands as one of the cardinal points of interest. Now, he believes that much of what needs to be done is about administrative discipline, commitment, policy-driven, and above all, collaborating with experts from far and near. Now, the administration of the APC, when David Lyon becomes a governor, will do well by certain timelines. By 2024, which is 4 years in government, the experts who have proven themselves in managing challenges of environmental degradation, the ecological collapse that we are witnessing, the agricultural near total elimination because of the gas flaring every other day, the destruction of the ecosystem. And of course, when you look around and you see the terrain, we're just sitting on water. And as it rains now, when you get to Bayelsa State, there are some places that are not passable. We're talking about the state capital. And we believe that the experts we brought in to lift up those very low sides of our communities through dredging and reclamation will also ensure that within Yenegua Metropolis, we'll open up the right drainages.
You're talking about experts. What
Yes.
about the locals?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. It has to be a collaboration when you bring in the experts. Another thing is to show local content so that there will be ownership and responsibility. But
We just had guests here who talked about the fact that sometimes the communities make things difficult in even catering for their environment.
in Bayelsa State, every community in Bayelsa State is ready to ensure that the environment is made better because the challenges have been monumental. And that's why we're saying when the experts come, all what the experts need to do is to dance within the policy of government that is people-oriented, that is passionate about changing the situation. And then the experts will liaise through the government instrumentality, policy and law, to ensure that they collaborate with the local people. When we bring in the local content, those jobs that we need to do as a people, being guided by the policy trust of the experts. And that's why we're talking about the state capital. We need to have drainages that are actually flowing. Drainages that will just dance towards, from the upside towards the low side, which is the rivers and the creeks that we have. We are lucky that the rivers are so close. The Yenegua is so small. So why is it that it's always waterlogged? As I'm speaking now, not just the flood. The rains will make a lot of people every other day, even during dry season. People can't stay in their homes because there are no drainages, there are no gutters. All we need to do is urban town planning with experts in mind. And the governorship candidate of the APC in his blueprint has told Bayelsa, look, we will do all of this and we'll make sure that in the first 4 years, that's what we're talking about, timelines. In the first 4 years that he will serve as a governor, Bayelsans will understand that the environmental challenges of the people are changed largely. Because one, if you're talking about oil exploration and exploitation, which has led to gas flaring, we are going to work with multilateral companies to ensure that, look, whatever thing they're doing is in adherence to the policy trust of the federal government in terms of environmental management. They are also acting within good conscience to the provisions of the United Nations on managing environment. And I think a whole lot of critical stakeholders are also operating within the Niger Delta. What is happening in Ogodi land is exactly what is happening in Bayelsa State. Therefore, environmental handling is a core, it's very crucial to the coming government. But we are assuring Bayelsans that for us as a people, we don't want to play politics about the environment, environmental challenges of the state. That's why we're putting the timeline that in 4 years, these challenges that we're having today will be largely eliminated. They might not be total because these problems have been there over the years. So that we know, we are telling Bayelsans 4 years of this administration, this is where we're going to be. The gutters will be running, the drainages will be built, the waters will flow to the creeks and the canals. We'll ensure that our communities that are having flood and erosion controls are given due attention. They might not all be handled at a go based on the provisions that we have in terms of funds. And of course, most importantly, bearing in mind that there are other constraints that the state is having. But we know flood and erosion core, this administration is going to tackle. Drainage, flood within the city capital is going to be done. And above all, it's important that adherence by oil and multinational companies also do the needful by ensuring that this gas flaring, let me just mention before my friend comes in, because this gas flaring of the thing talks about the abundance of gas under the soil, under the earth in Bayelsa State. This administration intends to convert that wastage that is causing us, burdensome in terms of ill health, deaths, etc. We are going to convert that to electrical energy. And that's why we're telling Bayelsa State that 4 years timeline, majority of our communities are going to be connected with power and energy so that we use that to strengthen our desires for economic growth and prosperity.
Don, what would you say to the skeptic who says, I've heard it all before, there they go again?
Yeah, it's nice to ask, and I think I also ask those questions, being skeptical sometimes. The reason being that oftentimes politicians make promises, but it's also true that today we're seeing states, a couple of states where promises were made and the governors are keeping. This governor will keep to his promises. He's been tested in different ways, especially in the private sector. He's not a core politician. He believes in setting targets and meeting results. He believes in setting timelines. He's a successor in everything he lays on. Bayelsans believe that when he becomes a governor and he decides to do the things he's been doing, bearing in mind that it's going to show that political will, that dexterity, passion, and the fear of God, who knows? This one is going to be better. And that's why we're saying it's not going to be the normal political talk and race matters of the time. This is certainly going to be different.
Mr. Aladra.
I wish you people would give me the same time the way you gave my friend Don. Maybe because he's in the studios, that's why you are giving him, all this time to talk. But please be patient because I need to respond to a lot of issues he has raised. And I would like to go back to the issue of education that he talked about. And as I listen to him talk, and each time I see him or I listen to him talk, since he crossed over to the APC, I usually shake my head. And I do that because the person sitting in the studio with you there, with all due respect, is my friend, my former colleague. he does not have the moral high ground to even be saying the things he's saying in that studio. Because this is a man who sang the praises of the current governor and the present government, and only last month he moved over to the APC, and the person who had been a good person all along and suddenly become bad. So he even lacks the moral justification to be saying some of the things he's saying. Because in government, he didn't even say those things. So why is he saying them now? Because he's in another party. Well, I needed to put that, that in context, and let me say that he talked about the issue of consolidating on education. And the question I want to ask, what are you going to consolidate on if there was nothing on ground? If the current government didn't do anything, what will, assuming without conceding that his candidate comes in as governor, what will he consolidate on? Because you want to make a man or a government look bad, you only see the negative things. Then you want to take the good things that government has done and you say you want to consolidate on them. If this government had not moved the position of Bayelsa from where it was to where it is today, that Don is expecting that a government that is led by David Lyon will consolidate on. How would they have been able to do that if this government had not taken Bayelsa from where it was to where it is today? So when you talk, sometimes you need to look back to the things you have said before. And a lot of people don't take Don seriously anymore because when he talks, they knew the kind of things he said when he was speaking for the governor and for the government. So today, what he's saying in that studio is all politics. And I want to tell him, I want to say this clearly, I want to say this openly before Nigerians and everybody listening to us. The candidate of the APC does not have what it takes to move Bayelsa from where it is now to where it's expected to be. Because in the first place, he does not have the capacity to even do it. That is why they engage people like Don to be speaking all the grammar and be saying all the nice things. In all their campaign venues, you will never hear their candidates say these things that Don is saying in the studio. The man does not even know how to articulate it. So how will he do it? That is the question. And that is why Bayelsans are concerned. Why the APC brought such a candidate? And they can only hope to win because they want to continue to do the kind of things Don is doing.
I will patiently advise that you go back to the issues. You say you want to address issues. Can you leave the person and look at the issues? Because there's no time.
I am addressing the issues, and I'm telling you that what Don is saying is not different from the usual things that we hear the APC say in our state. They like to spread propaganda lies, and that is why their national chairman, even on Thursday, lied about a project, one of the best projects that this government has put in place, the Bayelsa Airport. The man openly told the world that airport is flooded, that planes cannot land on that airport. Only for us to go, we were there yesterday, there are live pictures of that airport. No puddle of water, not to talk of flood. An airport that is dead ground, that water cannot get into the runway. The national chairman of Don's party, the APC, said that the airport is flooded. That airport, in fact, we didn't know when Oshomole became an engineer that knows how to build an airport. So this is the kind of things we hear them say. They want to spread misinformation to be able to get an advantage. But look, let me tell you also, talking about the environment, that is the issue we are talking about now. This government, the government of Governor Henry Sirake Dixon, has already established the Bayelsa State Oil and Environment Commission. Only a few days ago, just about a week ago, this commission submitted this interim report. And what is the work of the commission? To be able to identify Bayelsa communities and individuals that have suffered all kinds of untold hardship as a result of oil exploration activities in the Niger Delta and in our state. This commission has identified a lot of the issues that Don is pontificating about. So what will Diri do when he comes into office? Diri will only consolidate on what this government has already done, because we have already identified all the problems. what is remaining is when we receive the final report in January next year, the government will take off from there. When Gini comes in, we'll take off from where this government is stopping, and we'll address those issues. I also tell you as we speak, there is a bill before the House of Assembly for the establishment of the Bayelsa Oil Producing Areas Development Commission. Some people will say, why is it coming? Why is it coming now? It is better late than never. That is the truth. Because there are so many things that the government has to do. The government has to contend with a lot of issues. So the issue of environment has already been identified by this government. It is tackling it. It is not our problem. Majorly, it's not our problem because these issues, as Don rightly noted, they were caused by the oil companies. These are the multinationals who neglected our environment. If you go to our rivers and our communities today, you will see the level of degradation, the level of despoilation that our federal government has been hamstrung, to do anything about it. So the state governments are left to tackle issues of development and also tackle issues of addressing the environmental problems created by the oil multinationals. So what we are saying is that the areas that the government need, the states need to handle, the federal government should not give us the extra burden. The areas that the federal government needs to tackle, they should also do their own responsibility. In the case of the Niger Delta, we all know that because of the unholy alliance between the federal government and the oil companies, they have failed in delivering service to our people. So whatever Don is saying now, it is not because they want to address these issues, because the APC government that we currently have not been able to address these issues up till now. So they cannot come and tell us that this is what they want to do when they get into office, when we do not see their government doing it even now. I'm going to stop there for now. Thank you.
Issue of drainages. Drainages along the roads in Bayelsa. He says there are no drains whatsoever. So you find out that every little rain, people are
in Yenagoa.
Yeah. Residents are chased out of their homes because the waters are not channeled properly.
It's not the absence, lack of feed of drainages in Yenagoa or in Bayelsa that causes flooding. All of us know that Bayelsa is below sea level. All our communities are below the sea level. When the tide rises, water will always find a way. That is the problem. Lagos that has drainage and the rest, doesn't Lagos get flooded? All the other states that NIMED gives warning to, is it because they don't have drainage? That's why they have flooding. So why are we running away from the issue? You are talking about drainage as if, look, Bayelsa, Yenagoa in particular, has issues with development. The way houses are built, some of them are haphazard. They block drainage channels. Those are issues, yes. But you cannot say that because there are no drainage on roads, that is why we have flooding. It is a problem that is caused by the level. We are below sea level, and that is why we have flooding. Until we begin to address the issue of constructing shoreline projects and trying to protect our communities from the surge of the sea, then we cannot properly talk about this, address these issues, because that is what I think is the major solution. It is not because of drainage. It is not because drainage are not constructed on roads, and that is also not true. It is just a political statement they are making to make it look like the roads don't have drainage.
Why is the airport not in use already?
Why is what, the airport?
Yes.
Oh, very good question. Thank you very much. You see, that airport, the Bayelsa International Airport, was ready. I mean, as at the beginning of this year, that airport was ready, because I recall that on February 14, 2019, we had the inaugural flight. Two flights landed on that airport. One was by APC, and another one a private flight, a private jet landed on that airport. So the airport was and has been ready to receive passengers and to commence commercial operations. But you and I know that the aviation sector is one of the most regulated sectors in the world. And it is not like just buying a car and putting it on the road to drive. When you build an airport, that airport will go through regulatory process. Apart from meeting the standards, in construction, you also have to meet aviation aviation industry regulations. So what is delaying flight from landing at that airport today? It's not because we have not done our part. As at yesterday, when we got to that airport, every facility that needed to be put in place, I can tell you for free that we have done. We're only waiting for the federal government, which is now playing politics with the approval of the license for us to commence commercial operations. We are waiting on NCAA and the regulatory agencies to give us approval. Just on the 16th of October, about 3 weeks ago, they were here for 2 days to take a look at the airport. They did all the inspection, and they gave us a clean bill. In fact, in the aviation sector, I think there's something they call something. They gave us something that has to do with satisfactory concern or something. They gave it a name that we do not have any satisfactory. There's no reason for anybody to be seriously concerned about the airport. That is the technical term that they use, and I've seen it, and I can tell you that the moment they give us license for commercial to comment, you begin planes flying. The airport is ready. Every navigation.
Dan, thank you. Well, we'll take a quick break. When we'll come back, we'll get the two of them to respond to a couple of comments that are coming in here. Please stay with us. Okay, so it's been quite interesting hearing from the two sides of the divide in Bayelsa, at least the two of them that were able to make it here, the APC and the PDP. So let me start by reading out these comments, because we haven't looked at health, I think. Yeah, we'll look at health. But before that, Mfonliner says, to put it out there, it says that experts doesn't just mean foreigners, rather people that are experts in their field. Nigerians and people of the Niger Delta, including Ijaws, are a good number. There are enough experts in this country, so they don't just have to be foreigners. And he says, let's correct that mentality. Prof, again, sent in this one. It says, continuity and consolidation in governance is what separates the developed from the developing nations. Criticisms without statistics to back up political arguments makes the whole electioneering look like a huge joke. We need to learn and learn fast. You wanted to respond to Dan?
Yeah, there's no point. I don't want to personalize the matter. It's my friend, and this is a public space, and I'll leave that for the public to judge. But I'll say a few things. Because like the prof just raised the concerns about the need for us to do the things rightly and not just politicizing. And so let's talk, for instance, the civil service in the state. Because of one thing that are verifiable, so that it do not be like utopic arrangements. In Bayelsa State, 8 years down the drain, not even a single civil servant in Bayelsa State has been promoted to the next level. Fact. It is also true, 8 years down the drain, not even a single retiree has been paid gratuity in Bayelsa State. Fact. It is also true that Bayelsa State declared a state of emergency in crime and criminality, zero tolerance on crime and criminality. Security records are there, I find out from all security assessors in the country. Except the Boko Haram infested states in this country, Bayelsa State is the most unsafe state. Why? This government that we are talking about, the incumbent government patronizes crime and criminality in the states.
I am saying
it. No.
You have facts.
You see, that's what I'm saying. Fact. Now there are commissioners of police in Bayelsa State. One time, what we see have serving. We have DSS. We have the civil defense. We have the JTF.
This is not
in Bayelsa State. No, I am saying I was the security advisor to this government. I was the security advisor to this government. Now, this is where the fact is. I was the special advisor to this governor on urban crime management. So I'm speaking as someone who has depth in it. You don't dare arrest someone who engages in high-tech crimes in the state, and the call comes from government house. The DPOs can't work. The area commanders can't work. The civil defense commander and the commissioners of police can't work because there is undue politicization of every crime and criminality. Therefore, the zero tolerance of crime and criminality is a failure. We are also saying, in this government, and we're now saying that they want to consolidate and continue, they went and told the people of this state, I was part of those campaigns, no doubt, because we believe it was a philosophy that was achievable. And we told Bayelsans that this state is going to be industrialized, and therefore this governor led 17 different delegations to the UK, to the US, to Northern Ireland, to South Africa, and even to Rwanda. What did they do? They went and plowed billions of the state, telling the state that they were signing MOUs and bringing the world to plummet on Bayelsa State for industrialization. 8 years down the drain. Where are the industries? Not even a single industry in Bayelsa State. It's an issue for concern in determining who becomes the next governor of this state. This same government told Bayelsans that they want to diversify the economy of the state from sole reliance on statutory allocation to that of tourism and agriculture. And so they first took agriculture. Tens and tens and tens of billions were plowed into it. What did they say? They said we want to open the largest cassava farms Nigeria has ever known. We want to open the largest rice farm because of our comparative advantage, because of our terrain that Nigeria has ever known, so that will feed not just Bayelsa, not Niger Delta, but also exports. We also told the world, and indeed emphasized to Bayelsans, that we want to open the largest fish farms. Now, as it stands today, because on record they have over 112 billion that were spent in this facet of sectors that I've mentioned. The question is there a single cassava farm in Bayelsa State? Where is it? Is there a single rice farm in Bayelsa today? Where is it? Where are the fish farms? Of course, fish farms were dug, but as I talk to you, not even a single fish has been produced. Meanwhile, year after year, budgetary provisions were made. A release is made into the pockets of people. And they told the people, not only putting food, not only on food security, but we'll create job opportunities for our children and wards who have been graduating from schools every day. The question is, where are the jobs? Where are the fish farms? Where are the rice and the cassava farms? It's an issue of concern. It's going to determine what happens in this election.
Dan said something. He said you were part of those, and indeed you said yes.
And let me just add so that for the listeners,
you were part of those. That 1 month ago you moved from their party.
Yes, agreed. So, for the listeners, very important. I don't want to look agitated like my brother and friend. He was not in the government when we started the Dixon government, the restoration government. He just came a few days ago. He actually took over from me as a spokesperson for the government. He didn't go to any campaign. I went
so
to
he took over from you a month ago.
No, not a month. When I left, I was changed to urban crime management. Now, what I'm saying is, I went with this governor, community after community in the state. I know what we promised the people of the state. This governor has not done.
So you're saying that his allegation that you don't have the moral grounds to say what you're saying now?
He looked the way he was agitated. I don't want to look agitated. This is a global platform, so we must act with decorum. But the most important thing is this. Look, Bayelsans are concerned about issues. I have not also mentioned the candidate of the PDP. You can attest to that. Not even a mention. You know why? Bayelsans don't believe that there is a candidate for the PDP. Bayelsans believe that the incumbent, my friend, the incumbent governor, Governor Harry Sirake Dixon, is the one contesting. Indeed, he is going for eternal legation. And Bayelsans are saying,
but he cannot go for a third term.
I know, this is the story we're saying. Bayelsans are saying they don't believe there is anybody that is contesting other than Dixon. And so this is a referendum on Dixon's performance. Is it on security? Go to Inegwa today, because this is where I just left that office. Bayelsa state capital, is a den of criminality as it stands. I'm not painting bad thing. Nigeria, Bayelsas no. Okay. 7 o'clock in the night, you can't go out in the night.
Okay,
why?
Dan.
Our children and wards are neck deep into crime and criminality because this governor is patronizing persons who are celebrating.
These are very strong words,
no,
and you take
he knows.
Responsibility for your words.
Who is going to say if it is not me? I know. I just left office as a special advisor.
Dan. Mr. Labra.
Yes, thank you. Like I said earlier, I just shake my head whenever he talks. He has just been Ton has just been indicting himself. Now, when you talk about, unfortunately, your terrestrial platform has gone up. People can't hear us anymore. But let me say that he talked about Yenagoa being unsafe, that there is no security in Yenagoa, the state capital. And I'm going to just respond to him by asking him a question. Who is responsible for security in our states? Is it the governors or the police commissioners or the policemen or the other security agents? Who is responsible? He just left office as an advisor on urban crime management. He knows this issue I'm talking about now. Bayelsa, in the last 2 years, we have had not less than 20 commissioners of police. I don't know if you heard what I said. I said 20, not less than 20 commissioners of police. So how do you want a state, more so the state capital, to be stable, when even the commissioners of police that are even supposed to give directive to the rank and file, the commissioners they are not sure whether they will be in office for 1 week, not talk of 2 weeks or 1 month. That has been our story in the last 2 years. And we are already suspecting, and I think our suspicion is even right, that the crime and criminality that we notice in Yenagoa is contrived by these same elements who are now using it against us. Because the governor does not have power over a commissioner of police, over an ordinary, even a DPO. He does not have power. So what do you want the governor to do? You want the governor to go to the streets?
Well, I hope that Dan can get back to us real quick because he needs to respond to a couple of other things that Don raised here. So Dan will be waiting for you to get back to us. Okay, he's back. Yes, Dan?
Oh, okay. I was saying all that the government needs to.
Oh dear.
Okay, we'll get back to Dan. Dan, please keep your thoughts. You have to respond to everything, and please also be paying attention as we go along. Yes, Don, let's look at health, the health plan for the future.
Yeah, I think importantly, what we intend to do, which is well strategically put on platforms and frameworks for implementation. When the APC wins the governor, not if, when we win the governorship election, we'll ensure that we'll step up the uptake of healthcare service deliveries in the state in terms of renewable infrastructure, because we have dearth of infrastructure in all our rural communities. In most places, it's totally absent. And so we're going to show that we strategically plant new health facilities, bearing in mind that every health facility that we have, it also requires health service providers. And so this government is going to work very assiduously. Having the strategy on ground is one thing, implementation is another. And so we're setting timelines that from February 14, 2020 to 2024, we want to ensure that the uptake of health service delivery in the state will be raised up to 60%. Now, that's what we intend doing. It's quite a modest target that we're setting, but we know it's achievable. Achievable because when these facilities are built, they need to be equipped. We also need the personnel. And we do have the Niger Delta University. We also have the teaching hospital at Okolobri. Of course, our children awards are graduating every now and then in health service delivery systems. And so all we need to do is to step up their knowledge base so that the dispensation of these services will be in tandem with international best practices. Most of the things will not be done solely by states. We're going to bring the private partners so that it will be PPP, and we ensure that set targets are implemented later. When budgetary provisions are made for the uptake of health services, they are monitored closely, and so special departments will be set up in the government to ensure that every policy directive of the government is given due attention to ensure that budgetary appropriations are not just made, but they are also released, and the releases are geared towards ensuring that actuals have been met.
Pardon me
Okay.
for interrupting you.
They said Dan is back. Can we get to him?
Can I just,
Okay.
make this little connection? You said earlier that the governor had promised earlier that he would turn Bayelsa State from being just an allocation-dependent state to something else. So, I mean, you are talking about all these plans, all these big plans that you and your party have in mind for the state. Are you thinking of how you're going to get the money to implement all this if all that the state depends on right now is statutory allocations?
The first thing is, the spirit of patriotism, love for your people. Number two is ability to manage your resources, and that brings about the essence of fiscal discipline. We will ensure as a government, David Lyon as a governor will ensure that the resources of the state are appropriately allocated to areas of special needs. And of course, when we are talking about health, people that are sick can't benefit anything. And therefore, we are going to take it as a priority. So when we're looking at funding of such a policy, we're looking at one, yes, the state has capacity to do the basic things. And then at the tertiary level of health service delivery, believe me, the world over, there are investors, there are countries, there are companies, there are service providers. They have the monies. There are billions and trillions of dollars all over the world, but they are looking for places where there is a safe haven, where the policies are humanistic, where there are infrastructures, where there are laws, where there is good governance, where there are due processes. Now, when you do all of that, all you need to do is to sell your state to the world. And of course, these global players who are service providers will plummet on the state, bearing in mind that we have laws, and so we are not going to be taken for advantage, undue advantage on, but we are going to ensure that we keep the interests of Bayelsa State paramount in anything we're doing.
All right, we will take a moment. When we return, Dan is back, so he will join us in that conversation, but do stay with us. Welcome. So, Dan, sorry for that breaking transmission. You can trust the internet sometimes fails. So you were responding to a couple of things, and you also heard the things that Don added after that. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was talking about the security situation that he talked about, and he tried to put the ball on the table of the current government. And I try to make him understand. I want people to understand. I know Nigerians know the truth that when there is a drop in security, or when you have security issues in Nigeria, most of the governors, in fact, all the governors are hamstrung. There is nothing they can do about it because they are only chief executive officers in name when it comes to security. The person who gives the last order is in Abuja. So when there is a drop in security, what do? You can only try to collaborate with the security in place, particularly the Nigeria police, that is a place for you to be able to address these issues. And that is what the state government has done. The police in Bayelsa cannot say, even the IG himself cannot say that we have not supported the police to do their work. And if they are unable to meet the crime and criminality that we have in our state, you cannot continue to blame the state government. If the government has not done anything to support the operations of the security agencies that are in the state, then you can do that. Don himself, that is in the studio, he knows that the state government has done what it should do. So, like I was saying earlier, we are tempted to think, and we might not be wrong, that the poor security situation that he is talking about in Bayelsa today is contrived, because this is a state that has been peaceful, very peaceful. Up till 2 years ago, we started seeing elements of cult groups and the likes. They create hoodlums, they cause crisis here and there, they rob people inside the tricycles, that's the keke, and all of the like. That is what you see. And what do they, these are even petty criminals. What do they even do? They just only take your phone. If you resist them, they stab you or they take your money. That is all you have. So if the police is not able to tackle this low level of criminality, why are you coming to blame the government? Now, come to think of it, I said earlier that in the last 2 years, Bayelsa has had close to 20 commissioners of police. And if Don, like my friend Don said, that Bayelsa youths are very smart, or Bayelsans are very smart, the criminals know that when there is no person as head of any system, they will take advantage of the loopholes. There are too many loopholes in the security system of Bayelsa.
Okay. Again, Dan is frozen. Okay, Dan. Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Dan.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Police commissioners are indiscriminately transferred in Bayelsa. They are not sure whether they will be on that seat for 1 week. So what do you expect the criminals to do? They will take advantage of these loopholes. And this is what the governor has been shouting about. He has been shouting about this state of affairs, particularly with the way police commissioners are politically appointed. They want client commissioners of police in Bayelsa. Anyone that comes and they feel this one will not do their bidding, before you know it, that person is transferred. And now Don is there talking about security situation in the state. That he knows, if he's true to his conscience, he knows that some of these things are contrived. But let us look at the other issues he has also talked about. People have talked about the issue of health. Now, let me tell you today that Bayelsa has one of the best health insurance schemes, if not the best today in Nigeria. It's second to none. As I speak to you, if you go to the hospitals that have been provided by the state government and you are registered under the health insurance scheme, you get treatment virtually for free, including whatever you are doing, including your wife is doing cesarean section, you are doing anything that you are doing that has to do with your health, and even if it's operation or whatever, the government takes care of it because there is a workable, effective, and efficient health insurance scheme in place. Civil servants enjoy it. Today, as I speak to you, over 150,000 enrollees are in that program. The government has succeeded very well with the health insurance scheme that it is now considering the private sector to be part of it. That is one part of the health system that we have in place. The other thing this government has also done is to take care of maternal and infant and maternal mortality, to reduce infant and maternal mortality in our state by ensuring that every pregnant woman in Bayelsa today gets special attention. The moment you are pregnant, you go to the hospital, you are registered. Once you are enrolled, the government takes care of your antenatal from there. And every month you are given a stipend. You get a stipend until the 11th month. That's 2 months after you are delivered of your baby, you still get a stipend. That is a system that is in place. Today, this government has some of the best medical facilities you can think of in Nigeria today. We are not just boasting. The Bayelsa State Diagnostic Center is one of the best in Nigeria today. And this was confirmed when our former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, last year in August last year, he was there to do his own, a comprehensive health check, what he normally goes to the US to do. Chief Obasanjo came to Bayelsa and he had it at 2 different medical facilities, the Bayelsa Diagnostic Center and the Bayelsa Specialist Hospital. These are hospitals that have state-of-the-art equipment today, provided by the resolution government of Governor Henry Serake Dixon. Now, this government has also gone further to establish a medical university. As I speak to you, when the resolution government came in, we had only one university that he talked about, the NDU. He mentioned the Niger Delta University established by the late Chief DSP Alameseya. But this government, in less than 8 years, has established 2 other universities, including the Bayelsa Medical University. So today, When you talk about education, you talk about health, you talk about even agric that my brother is talking about today. This government set up the aquaculture center with 500 fish ponds. So let him not tell us that we don't have fish. He should tell us what we eat. What do we eat in Bayelsa? Food is not a problem in our state, and that is a fact. And the reason they say all of this, they forget that in Nigeria today, Bayelsa cannot be an island in a situation where there is general suffering or there is general poverty. I want to recall that before 2015, Nigeria was the third fastest growing economy in the world. We were number one in Africa. But when the APC government took off in 2015, 2 years after, Nigeria went into recession. And in less than 4 years, this country became the poverty capital of the world. They talk about Bayelsa as if Bayelsa is the only state where people suffer one form of deprivation or the other. And I want to recall, because of the outcry of Nigerians, the Minister of Agriculture, an APC minister, said only recently that there is no suffering in Nigeria, that there is no poverty, there's no suffering in Nigeria. And they come and talk about Bayelsa as if what we suffer is the creation of the restoration government. It's very unfortunate that people forget that the currency we operate, our naira that is exchanged with other currencies, fell. The value of our currency fell greatly from 2015. When the last government left office in 2015, the naira was exchanging for about 190 naira to the dollar. But today, how much does it exchange for? It's 360 naira
Okay, Mr.
to the dollar.
Mr. Labra, please. Mr. Labra, can you just hold your thoughts there? Mr. Labra, just hold your thoughts a moment. We're almost out of time, and in winding down now, each of you has 2 minutes, and strictly 2 minutes for your closing statement. So, done.
Yeah. We've done, the restoration government of Henry Strike Dixon has done about 8 years. Zero water provision. There isn't a dot of water provided for the people of Bayelsa State, either from the state capital to our communities. It's a fact. It is also true. 8 years down the drain. Zero electricity provision. We told the people of the state that energy provision will be a top priority of this government. Yenegua is the darkness capital of the world. Not even a single bulb lights in the night. The people languish in total darkness. It is also true that no retiree in Bayelsa State for 8 years has been paid a dot of gratuity. They are dying in the numbers. It is also true that virtually all the schools within the Yenegua metropolis and in our communities, our children sit under open roof, under stones and blocks, and they call those schools. It is also true that even the health insurance scheme that he's talking about, in most of the facilities, children who are taken there by families are given a bottle of paracetamol to share among 3 children that are sick. It is evidence. It is true. And it's also true that the CS that he's talking about is zero operation, which once or two they used to do. But you know what? You have to pay the burden. They will tell you what they provide is just the counter drugs. Let us tell the world the truth. And that's why we're saying, if insecurity is a problem, the neighborhoods of Yenegua and indeed the state, he just attested that you can't move anywhere in tricycles, in the neighborhoods, people will stab you, they'll rob you. It's of course, it's a fact. We're now saying insecurity is a problem in the state. We are also saying that, look, civil servants in the state, for 8 years, none has been promoted. Stagnation of development and growth in the service is an issue for determination. We are also saying that, look, for 8 years, we told the world we're bringing the world to permit on Bayelsa State for industrialization. Where are the industries? Tens and tens and tens of scores of billions were spent. Where are the industries? He talked about fish farms, 500 fish farms. Not even a single fish is produced in Bayelsa State. And Bayelsans are laughing and mocking what my friend said. I don't want to personalize the issue. The story is, are we a state? Yes, we are a state under the Nigerian confines. Are we doing what is right? No. Bayelsans are saying, enough, enough, enough. We will not allow a tenure elevation. We cannot continue with the suffering.
Thank you.
And that's why we're saying David Lyon of the APC is the solution, because he has answers ready made in his blueprint.
David Alabra, your closing moments. Daniel. Okay, Oluwatosin Alebiosu says, I listened to APC carpeting the PDP government. These are all political statements given to hoodwink the people into voting for them. They can't do anything better. The two leading political parties have failed the people. We need a paradigm shift. That's coming from Oluwatosin Alebiosu. Is Daniel back now? We're waiting for Daniel to give his closing thoughts. Don, you sold this government your carpeting.
True.
And now you're on the other side selling the other.
True.
Why should anybody listen to you?
I went to the governor, community after community, and we made very humble promises. And he failed to keep them. And because he failed to keep them, I am not happy. I was the face of the government. All Bayelsans know. And of course, this platform too. We told Bayelsans what we would do. This governor has refused to do. It was shameful. There are most fronts in the state because we did not come to say this governor has done this.
So what's the guarantee that this new government or this new person you're selling would do what
you have said?
David Lyon, from a very humble background, he has been a philanthropist. He is the second highest employer of labor in the state.
See, this is the same thing. This is the same thing you said about it.
No, it's a fact.
So what's the guarantee that this? Because you're not the one controlling. He's not a robot.
He has been tested. He has been proven. Within, it's not a core politician.
Don, you said here now that on this platform you also said this about
the
current governor.
Came and said what the restoration government intended to do.
You are not the one controlling this person you're selling.
Yeah, but
now.
we know
so what's the
he has
guarantee?
been tested. As at the time Dixon came, he came with a philosophy of people saying these things are doable, but he was never tested. David Lyon has come prepared to become a governor, and that's why he's talking about a ready blueprint, a blueprint that is married to the pulse of the people of the state, and that's why we have no doubt in our mind. That time after time after time,
all right,
we
Dan,
have the capacity to drive the process.
Let's get down to this.
The results
all right, Dan, please.
2 minutes, please.
I am suspecting. Why is it that when I want to respond, that is when it goes off? Hello?
Please go ahead and do your response.
I really do not want to respond to some of the things that my friend Don is saying in the studio, but let me just say that when you talk about darkness today, darkness in Nigeria is a general problem. So they call our minister of darkness or minister for darkness. It is not a Bayelsa problem. So let the APC not don't make it look like it is only in Agua that is in darkness. There's darkness all over Nigeria, and that is a fact. I won't begin to respond to everything line by line. But the other thing I want to say is that I wonder why they do not talk about the candidate of the PDP. Why all through the period that Don has been talking in the studio, he did not talk about the things that anything that you can say against the PDP candidate. Governor Henry Sirake Dixon is leaving office on February 14. He's not a contestant in the election of November 16. They should focus on what they think that our candidate, Senator Doediri, does not have. We have a lot, and I've said some here about their candidate, his deficiencies and the things that he cannot do. He does not have the capacity to govern a local government, not to talk of governing a state like Bayelsa. It is a shame that people like Don, with all their education, they will throw it behind one man who does not know his level. I'm sorry to say, I'm not trying to denigrate him, but this is the fact. So I would rather want to look at the qualities that our candidate have brought to this campaign, to this election, and the things that he wants to do for Bayelsa. He will come and consolidate on the achievements of the Governor Henry Sirake Dixon. There is an airport in our state today that we never had. Today, we have 3 universities. We never had all of this. Today, Bayelsa is among the first 10 educationally developed states. The states, it's among the first 10 states that do well in national examination. It's not a fluke. It's as a result of deliberate policies put in place. Today, we have a health system that is working, and Bayelsans are benefiting from it. So these are the things that Senator Diri will consolidate on. Senator Diri will take the frontiers of development beyond Jenagua the way it is now to the seas, where is building a seaport. Those are the things that we are going to be doing.
All right, thank you. Dan, I'm afraid we really have to go at this point in time. We do apologize that the internet on your side wasn't working as you expected it to work. But thank you so much for sharing this day and your thoughts with us. We had in the studio Don Ebarada, who is the spokesperson for the APC campaign organization. And then from Bayelsa, from Yanogoa, we had Daniel Alabra, who is also a spokesperson for the PDP Media and Publicity Committee. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, gentlemen. So we wish you well. Please ensure that you conduct yourselves peaceably so that the people of Bayelsa can benefit from what is happening there. Sunrise will be back for the home stretch in a moment. Please stay with us.